Hello, Canucks fans, and welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, which is brought to you by the great folks over at Zephyr Epic. Join Zephyr Epic for a fun-filled trading event celebrating CONMEBOL Copa America 2024. There will be prizes, food, giveaways, and of course, epic trades. So get ready to complete your CONMEBOL Copa America USA 2024 official Panini sticker collection at Zephyr Epic. Copa America 2024 runs from June 20th to July 14th and is a great opportunity to meet fellow soccer enthusiasts, exchange stickers, and enjoy the vibrant community here in Greater Vancouver. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting out, this event is perfect for collectors of all ages. Bring your duplicates, meet fellow enthusiasts, and complete your collection. Don't miss out on this exciting opportunity to add those missing stickers to your album. Be sure to reserve your ticket on Eventbrite to secure a chance to win 2 tickets to the Whitecaps vs. Wrexham game. Winners will be announced July 10th, and you can find the Eventbrite link in our YouTube and podcast descriptions. This event is on July 6th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Zephyr Epic retail store at 8065 130th Street in Surrey. Big shout out to Zephyr Epic. Big shout out to Dave Hall, who's going to join us in a matter of moments to talk about development camp. And right before we went to air, Harman, you and I both had that moment where we were talking to each other and said, hey, let's not talk about development camp or try and give takes on development camp. We haven't been there yet. It's been so busy with free agency, and Dave's been there on free agency. Dave was there. So Dave, in my opinion, Dave was the only guy there. Dave's the only person in the market qualified to talk about development camp, I think. He's the only guy that's been there from day one. Everybody else is doing free agency stuff.
Yeah, I know other media members have come for day 2 and day 3, I believe. But yeah, he's the one to trust on this one. Also, just in general, the familiarity he has with not just the Canucks prospects, but junior prospects around the entire league. It's not just like sometimes in certain markets there will be prospect experts that know that specific team's prospects, but they don't have a greater scope on the rest of the league. And I think that perception matters, because if you're only looking at your own team's prospects, you don't have other teams' prospects to kind of gauge them against. And that's why Dave's so awesome at what he does.
That's right. He's certainly the most qualified person on this show to talk about Canucks prospects and Canucks development camp. So let's bring him in. Let's bring in Dave Hall, who's brought to you by our friends at 4 Winds Brewing, more specifically Huff Gold. If you like the 4 Winds Light but are looking for something with a bit more weight behind it, you should check out the 4 Winds Huff Gold Pilsner. Brewed as an homage to great German pills that came before it, Huff Gold is crisp, clean, with a nice little European hop zip to round it all out. You can ask for Huff Gold anywhere you find 4 Winds products. It's also available online at 4windsbrewing.ca for home delivery anywhere in BC, locally owned and operated in Delta, British Columbia. Let's bring him in. Let's bring in Canucks Army's prospect expert who's been at development camp since Monday out at UBC. Dave Hall joins us now. Dave, thanks so much for doing this.
No, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, happy to have you as always. You've been at development camp for 3 days now. Well, this is the 3rd day, I guess, and they're not on the ice. But from the sessions you've seen, who's standing out the most so far?
Well, I mean, first of all, right off the bat, I will say the only downside to this whole camp that's been there so far is that they've elected to go no name bars and no numbers this year. So trying to decipher, a 74 to a 77 on the little tiny emblem on the helmet has been, it's been an experience to say the least. But so, I mean, right off the bat, it's really hard not to notice Vilmer Ulrichsen. He's just the kid's 19 and he's 6'6". Looks like he's gone up to 200 or 235 pounds. So right off the bat, he's just really hard not to notice. But in terms of their play, I mean, it's hard not to just completely focus on Tom Willander. He's just so, as he should be as a first round pick, he's just so head and shoulders above everyone, just with his skating, his smoothness, and just his hands in general.
I wanted to ask you about the hands of Willander and his overall puck skills, because I think we've known since he's been drafted that he's got that beautiful, flowing, elegant skating, but it's been the puck skills and trying to be able to make more plays and improving his hands that is, I think, a big part of his development. How much progress have you seen in that area from him since he's been drafted?
Yeah, I mean, he's looked good. I think one important thing to take away from this development camp is that it's not really the environment to be judging the players, how have they progressed and how are they doing versus last year, only because, even Manny Malhotra has alluded to a couple times that this week is really, it's not focused on, you're trying to make it or earn a job. You're not trying to get focus on you. It's really just a lot of drills that are just focused on, quick plays. I've noticed a lot of quick transition plays where they're doing a lot of one-touch passing. But I mean, overall, like every once in a while, it's early in the summer. A lot of the kids haven't skated in a while. Some are coming off jet planes from all over the world. So, obviously everyone's a little bit rusty and the hands are a little bit, there's some fumbles here and there. But so far through every drill, he's kind of the one that always stands out as doing it pretty smoothly. So overall, like I said, without even trying to, you're almost just gravitating towards him because he's just doing things so smoothly and so effortless. So it's definitely nice to see. It's nice to see in person, and you really get a true appreciation for just how smooth he really is.
Dave, you've been writing about each day of development camp so far for Canucks Army, and I edited yesterday's piece and I read all about Melvin Fernstrom and that shot. Tell us about the Canucks' third-round pick this year and how his shot has stood out at development camp so far.
Yeah, so far he's come as advertised. It's not, I wouldn't say it's the hardest shot in camp by no means, but he's picking corners all the time. He seems to have a really good idea of where his shots are going. And, on any given time, he's picking those corners. So it's definitely been nice to see. He's doing a lot out there. You can see the creativity he has in his game. You can also see some of the downsides in his game. You can definitely see they're doing a lot of, pass, curl arounds, receive another pass, and then shoot. And you can tell in his curls, he's a little bit, below average and compared to some of the other kids in his skating. But overall, his shot, you can definitely see he's good at picking those corners.
Last year, the Canucks had around 60 prospects at development camp. You noted that this year it's down to 28, less than half. Can you talk a little bit about the organization's new philosophy and strategy around cutting down the number of prospect camp invites and what the advantages of that are?
Yeah, they have 28 skaters in total, 24 skaters in total plus 4 goalies. So 28 players, and they got 10 coaches at any given time out on the ice. So the ratio is pretty crazy. And that, according to Manny Malhotra, that is definitely by design. They're really trying to focus a lot on, hands-on. And again, it's a development camp, not a tryout, right? So they're really trying to focus on just honing in, getting that one-on-one skill. And they're doing a lot of off-ice activities. First session was only a 45-minute skate, real quick pace and just quick get on and off. Yesterday they had more on ice, but today they're not even on the ice. They're focusing solely on community stuff. I know they've had several guest speakers come in, whether that's a coaching staff, or I saw they had an RCMP in yesterday. So I think this week, they have notebooks, and it's all really geared and focused toward on them learning and being able to take something back to wherever they're playing next year. And so it's been really cool. One thing that I am curious about, and I still haven't really gotten an answer as to why this is, but I've noticed that none of the Swedish kids are there. Lucas Forsell's not there, Lekaramäki or Pettersson aren't there, which, by all accounts, they should be there. So it is a little interesting that they've cut it down, but they are missing, a few of the Swedish players. But it is nice. You can definitely feel with the coaches ratio that it's a more hands-on feel.
Tell us about Anthony Romani. This guy leads the OHL in scoring. Has his shot popped off at this camp? Like, what are you seeing from Anthony Romani?
It hasn't. Funny story about Romani. It actually, and I'll say this, in my day one diary or notebook, I actually followed Romani most of the day thinking that it was Pettersson. Just because, again, no name bars. You're trying, especially on that first day when they're all coming out, unless you're Ulrichsen, who's 6'6". A lot of these kids look the same, like a lot of them are pretty on par with each other. And so I actually spent most of the day thinking he was another player. And it turns out it was Romani the whole time. So I have to say, I've been very impressed with him. I didn't realize that I was so impressed with him until day 2 when I realized that it was Romani. But he's looked really good. He's, you can tell he's not the fleetest of foot, but his skating is decent. It's definitely come a long way. But his shot is definitely on par. His passing has been really good. And overall, he's just kind of stuck out among the crowd as a pretty good player, to be honest. I'm really excited, and I saw him doing an interview yesterday. I wasn't in on the interview, but I kind of was keeping tabs on it, and by all accounts he seems like a really good kid too, so I'm really excited to actually talk to him myself.
I've got more questions around dev camp, but I wanted to step back and ask you a little bit about Vancouver's philosophy at the 2024 draft, just because we didn't have a chance to chat about that. it was interesting that a lot of Vancouver's draft picks in the mid to late rounds had a strong statistical profile, but maybe with some of their physical attributes, namely their skating, they were a little bit lacking there, which seems quite different from what we've seen in the past, especially from, let's say, the Jim Benning regime, where they would more target guys with very specific attributes and not really care so much about player statistical profile. What do you make of that philosophy change? And like, for me, I think that's a positive development, because you want to draft hockey players and sort of, you can bet on other attributes catching up. But what's your take on that?
Yeah, no, I love it, to be honest. I know Quads and I were talking about this when we were doing our draft day episode. And, you know, you can either go one or two ways, just like you said. You can either go the safe bet, or you can go the upside swing. With not a lot of picks, I love the fact that they're going on upside here. And I think, you know, they have, you know, I know that every NHL team has a really good developmental, you know, staff, and they have a really good coaching staff. But I think Vancouver is quite unique in the fact that they have a pretty elite developmental staff here, and they have a lot of coaches that are pretty good at what they do. And so I think they're quite confident in their ability to work on those, you know, maybe whether it's skating or maybe it's defensive game. I think they're quite confident in their abilities to, you know, maybe up the ante on those. And so at this point, when you're not holding a first or second round, and, you know, you're kind of taking swings on kids, regardless if it's the safe pick or not, I think, why not pick a kid that scored 58 goals and 111 points at 18 years old in the OHL? You know what I mean? So I think, for me, I love the fact that from rounds 3 to 6, they just went pure upside. I think, based on who they have in the developmental system in terms of coaches, I think it's by far the greatest way to go about it. Just go for upside swings, and just trust your development to be able to hone in on those skating. Because overall, a lot of them, you know, even like Romani, I just alluded to Romani's skating. Like, it's noticeably a little bit off, but it's by no means terrible. And Bernstrom can work on some of his choppy pivots, but it's by no means, you know, terrible, you know. So I think there is definitely stuff to work on, but I think it's nice to, you know, actually hone in on some of that offensive skill, because let's be honest, Canucks don't really have not only a big prospect pool, but in terms of offensive upside, it's also not very potent. So why not take some swings and just hope you can hit? You took five swings. Let's hope you can hit on at least one of them.
Dave, you had a conversation with Parker Alcos. That's up now at CanucksArmy.com. What can you tell us about the big guy from Port Moody?
Yeah, he seems like a great kid. You know, Vancouver Canuck fan as he was a kid. He was home watching it with his family, getting his name called. So dream come true for him. He just seemed very, very humble about the entire experience, and just trying to. I think, you know, it's tough with these drafted kids, because it's just such a crazy week for them. You know, they go from being a 17-year-old kid that's playing junior hockey to, you know, being drafted to the NHL, let alone your hometown club. So, and then, you know, just attending your first development camp. So I think, you know, his head's kind of spinning a little bit, but he seems like a really good kid. And yeah, on the ice, he's definitely a fluid skater. You notice him out there. I think he'll have to fill out a little bit. He's by no means small, but I think just in turn, you know, I think he's listed at 175 pounds. So you can definitely tell, as a 17-year-old probably should, he'll need to fill out a little bit more. But yeah, he seems like a good kid, and I'm excited to see him more this week.
You've referred on a couple of occasions to Sawyer Mignon as your guy. Yeah. He's a prospect that doesn't get a lot of attention in this market. Can you give us the case on why Mignon is your guy and has legit NHL potential?
Yeah, and like, you know, I will start by prefacing that, you know, it's not that I think he's going to be the next, you know, great top pairing defenseman. I just think, for a third round pick, I'm just constant every time I watch him, and now that I'm seeing him at Def Camp, I have a hard time not being, you know, just liking what I'm seeing. There's not much that you don't like in his game. Skating, he's one of the most fluid out there. He's a really good skater. He's aggressive. Like yesterday, I saw him take a nice healthy hack at Vilmer Ulrichsen's stick, broke it in half, and that was just in a little one-on-one battle. So, you know, he's got that aggressive mean streak. His shot is incredible. He's got a booming one-timer that he scored 16 goals with at the WHL level this year, basically all from the same spot. And he's just overall, for a third round pick, I think the profile is there enough that I think there's at least some more intrigue than I would think for an otherwise third round pick. Like I said, without even meaning to, I just find myself constantly drawn to the game that he plays. And yeah, there's still some things that he's going to work with. And let's be honest, he's been playing at the WHL level. this camp, he's playing against 17-year-olds for the most part. So, take that with a grain of salt. We'll have to see what he does when he eventually makes that swing to the AHL level. But I just have a feeling that, he's going to play NHL games at some point, whether that's second pair or bottom pair. I think he's got a good profile.
Dave, how's Aku looking? Is he looking like he's moving better in the crease? Aku Koskembo, tell me about him.
He's looked good. I tried to get some good videos from you. Actually, I had one good video yesterday that I was really excited about. I was going to send to you personally, but it turns out I was taking photos and it wasn't a video. So I lost out on that, but he's looked good. Out of all the four goaltenders, I think he's probably looked the most polished out of all of them. I'm by no means a goalie expert on their movements, but so far he looks pretty good between the pipes. I mean, obviously it's not the best environment for goaltenders by any means. He's just constantly getting one-on-one breakaways and, odd man rushes. So it's not a very pleasant environment for them, but I think he's looked pretty good.
We've talked a little bit about Josh Bloom over the last month. He obviously scores the Memorial Cup winning goal, and it was an interesting year for him where he spent some time in the AHL, spent some time in the ECHL, and ultimately played his overage season in junior, which on the one hand, you can say you don't love the fact that he wasn't able to crack it fully in pro hockey, and yet it's not always the worst thing to go back to junior and have another year where you're the guy and you play in a frontline sort of role. Do you think he's ready to take that big step this year and potentially be a full-time contributor for Abbotsford? And where do you just stand on him as a prospect now compared to when the Canucks initially acquired him as part of the Stillman trade?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, I think it is funny. I mean, we say that, oh, it sucks. He was sent back to junior. It's the worst thing. The kid's only still 20 years old, right? Like we get all excited about these NCAA players that we're hoping that the Canucks signed, but they're coming in as 23, 24-year-olds, right? So, I think it's really important to think, especially with a guy like Josh Bloom, that there's still a lot of runway. Like this kid is still 20 years old. He's very young. So right off the bat, I think that's important to remember. But this week, he's one of those guys along with Wilander that stood out. You could tell that he's been to a few camps, and you can tell that he's had some pro camps under his belt as well, because he's setting the tone. I talked to him off ice, and he actually seems like the perfect kid to get sent down in the middle of a pro tryout, because it just seems like it didn't phase him. He does nothing but embrace the fact that he had stuff to work on and kind of take in that extra opportunity to go to the Memorial Cup. And he seems like he's got a really good head on his shoulder, and he's trying to, I get the sense that he's trying to act as a bit of a leader among this group. He's been there a few times now. He's a little bit on the older side. So I think he's really trying to take the younger kids under his wing. And on the ice, he's the most vocal out there. He's setting the tone on every single drill. He's going pretty hard, and that's his game anyways. He's an enforcer. He's a real hard, in your nose kind of face kind of kid, and he's setting the tone this entire camp. And he basically, as I said in my notebook yesterday, he's playing like he wants to earn a spot in Abbotsford come September. I think at the very least, it's going to be a pretty young roster, and so I think at the very least he's probably going to carve out some sort of checking line role, whether that's a third or fourth line role. I do think he'll, at the end of the day, make the team.
I'm putting you on the spot a little bit here, but if we take a 200-foot view of Vancouver's prospect pool, and we'll say that Shilovs counts as a prospect for the purposes of this, okay, but how does Vancouver's prospect pool look relative to the rest of the NHL? Are we talking about a system that's average, a bit below average? Like, where would you kind of slot them in relative to the rest of the league?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I mean, the fact that, as we've talked about earlier, like the fact that they did take some offensive swings, and, we do have some skill embedded into the prospect pool, I think it does get upped a little bit. That being said, we're still looking at third round, fourth round, fifth round prospects. So it's kind of tough to just say, Melvin Fernstrom, instantly props them into the top 10 among the leagues. So I still would think it's probably league average. I think with guys like Lekaramaki and Wilander, and even now Shilovs, if he's being included, I definitely think I wouldn't say we're below average, but I think average is probably around your best bet, anywhere from 15 to 20th around the league. I do really like that the additions that they made, but I think overall we're still just begging for a little bit more substance at the top end, right? So that's my opinion. Just still league average. It's exciting. It's intriguing. There's some new names that are always fun, but that's about it.
I'm looking forward to your prospect rankings, Dave. Your rankings of the Canucks prospects. Going to be a good time. Good time to read those. In the next couple weeks here, Dave, we'll be following the rest of your coverage over at Development Camp for the rest of the week. We really appreciate you taking the time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
There he is, Dave Hall of Canucks Army. You can read his work at canucksarmy.com. Some interesting stuff there, Harm. Some really interesting stuff there from Dave. I need to get my eyes on a Kukas Campbell. I'll tell you that much.
I'm surprised he didn't make it a massive priority. Cancel the show. I gotta see him play and write 4,000 words on his post integration and whatever it is goalies do.
Well, hey, I was just talking to you. I was thinking maybe we don't do another show the rest of this week. Maybe Thursday, Friday, we head out to development camp and I get my eyes on a coup. Who knows? Any takeaways from what Dave said for you?
Right off the bat, just I love what Dave sort of brought up and just re-emphasizing that Bloom's only 20. I think that's a trap that like I honestly sometimes fall into sometimes is when prospect has a down year, just trying to contextualize it and remembering that, hey, a lot of times these NCAA guys get signed at 21, 22, even 23 years old, and they're joining Abbotsford then, and we still look at them as long shot bets, but we still look at them as, okay, they're prospects. And in Bloom's case, yeah, he didn't make Abbotsford, and he had to go back for his overage season, which isn't always the best sign, but it's really not the end of the world. So I think that was an important takeaway that I sort of noted right off the bat.
Absolutely. I'm still stuck on a coup. But I want to see Anthony Romani as well. Romani excites me, man. Leading goal scorer in the OHL. I get he's an overager. I get it. Just excites me. I want to go get some eyes on these prospects at some point. But in the meantime, Dave is a great resource for us to have. Okay, Harm, let's get to anyone else. And in anyone else, we can talk about the Canucks update line. A bit of a shorter show today, folks. We wanted to make sure we talked about Dev Camp, but let's get to anyone else. Brought to you by the Vancouver Canadians. The Vancouver Canadians have a couple of games left in their homestand this week. Get to the Nat as the Seas take on the Everett Aqua Sox tonight. The Seas will be back home July 19th for a 3-game set that includes a nooner at the Nat, a fireworks extravaganza, and a family fun Sunday. Catch fireworks, giveaways, Friday nooners, and superstar appearances all summer long. To get your tickets, call 604-872-5232 or go to canadiansbaseball.com. Okay, Harm, let's see. Bit of a quiet YouTube live chat today. Folks, if you have any questions, let us know. Let us know in the chat. I'll start us off, though, Harm. I've got an anyone else for you. Is anyone else looking at the Canucks lineup, like their projected lineup right now, and saying, man, I would have loved Adam Boqvist. Man, I would have loved Eric Brandstrom. Like, we're talking about the Canucks defense core, and we keep seeing this idea that, oh, well, Vincent Desharnais is going to improve under the coaching staff. And Desharnais spoke with media today and talked about that. He said he got a call from Rick Tocchet when the Canucks offer was on the table, and they talked about how they were going to improve his game. And that's ultimately why he ended up signing in Vancouver. Well, that's all fine and dandy. And I love some size. Owner Quads loves him some size on the right side of the blue line. I'm just looking at the defense core and I'm saying, yeah, I would have liked to see a puck mover there, if not only just for the reason that if this coaching staff is so great, which we have every indication to think it is, a guy like Adam Boqvist, can't they turn him into a real top 4 defenseman? Like, does this only apply to defensemen that have the size? I would love to see what this coaching staff could do with one of these, maybe a bit undersized puck movers and see what they could do with a guy like that in their arsenal.
Yeah, I'm not certain on Boqvist. He hasn't been healthy enough for me to really watch him consistently enough to have a take on whether he's sturdy enough defensively at his size and whether he brings, like, there's a difference, right? Some undersized guys, they've got a really good offensive skill set, more so from a power play quarterback standpoint, but maybe they aren't as effective transitioning the puck. Right. And then there are undersized defensemen that are the opposite, where they transition the puck really well, not necessarily doing a lot in the offensive zone or quarterbacking a power play. And the Canucks need the latter, right? They need a transition element. And with Boqvist, I know that he still has some of that power play quarterback side to him, but I haven't had a chance to watch him enough to know, is he a guy that under heavy forechecking duress can make clean exits? The way, for example, like in Eric Brandstrom, I know that's part of his skill set. He falls into that category of like, it's not really going to quarterback a second unit power play, but the Canucks don't need that because they have Hronek. But what I do know he can do with certainty is help you in transition. And I actually really like that signing for Colorado. And on a similar note, by the way, I was thinking about a lot. I think the best signing in free agency, and it was never going to be possible for Vancouver at this price point. So it's not like, oh, the Canucks should have done this. But Nate Schmidt at 800K for the Florida Panthers.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Like, there's your OEL replacement. He can play left side. He can play right side. He was, even in Winnipeg, he's bought out, but he was very good on the third pair. Like, the Jets controlled like 55% of expected goals, outscored opponents by a huge margin with Schmidt on the ice. It's just that they couldn't afford to pay him $6 million per year. So Schmidt coming in at 800K, it's a zero risk, high upside bet, because how many times have I mentioned that every defenseman that goes to Florida becomes a stud again? So Schmidt, at the bare minimum, his floor is very good third pair defenseman that can play left side and right side. But in upside cases, he could play second pair right side, replacing where Montour is. And I could absolutely see him with his skating skill set being a perfect fit in Florida system with how often they pinch up the ice, his puck moving element. Bit of a tangent there, but it's like that type of skill set I would have loved to have on the Canucks. It's just Florida, like, having such of an advantage there. Part of it, no state income tax, but also Schmidt, having said that he loved playing for Paul Maurice back in Winnipeg.
Yeah, there were reports that he left money on the table in other places and that he could have signed for more elsewhere. And that's not hard to believe at all, but he takes the deal with Florida. And hey, like, if you're trying to rebuild your value, go to Florida. Like, it worked for Oliver Ekman-Larsson, right? Like, Oliver Ekman-Larsson was able to pivot that year in Florida to a nice contract. Nice for him, with the Toronto Maple Leafs on free agency. So you're looking at that. And it was so funny because you said that on the show about Florida being the place where defensemen go to improve, and that's where defensemen turn their games around and turn their careers around. And then literally, what was it, like an hour after, I texted you the Nate Schmidt signing. As soon as it happened, I was like, dude, look what just happened, as we were just talking about Florida being the spot for those guys to head out to. So yeah, it's a good signing. It's a good signing. Again, probably not one the Canucks could have made, but a sharp signing for the Florida Panthers. This one from Kron in the chat. Do you guys think McWard can make the jump to begin the season? I think Cole McWard had a very up and down season in Abbotsford, and I think he has to have an up season before we're talking about him making the jump. Because realistically, like, if Cole McWard makes the jump, what's he doing for this team, right? Like, he's not going to bump Desharnais. He's not going to bump Tyler Myers. He's certainly not going to bump Hronek. So on the right side of that blue line, like, is Cole McWard going to take the 7th defense spot? Maybe. Okay, sure. Is he bumping Noah Jules and all that? Sure, maybe. Okay. But he's not playing. I think the most valuable thing for Cole McWard is to go down and be the guy in Abbotsford. And you look at that blue line, like, he is going to be the guy in Abbotsford. At least he should be on the right side. There's room to grow, and I think he needs to have that chance to grow.
Yeah, an everyday lineup spot is practically going to be impossible for him to crack if everybody's healthy. But keep in mind how long of a leash the Canucks gave him at training camp last season.
Yeah,
right. He was getting preseason games next to Quinn Hughes, and it wasn't just this is game 1 of the preseason, so we're giving this young kid a chance just as like an act of charity. No, they were legit looking at it as like this is one of the options we could be looking at, and one of their final cuts before the season started, I believe. I think for him, it's going to be, where exactly does he position himself as the next man up after those 3 right shot defensemen, Hronek, Myers, and Desharnais? Where does he slot? I still think Juleson is pretty solidly your number 7 defenseman, especially because he brings that size and that penalty killing element. But I mean, if McWard takes another step this summer, by midseason, could he leapfrog Juleson and become the number 7th D? I don't think it's a likeliest scenario, but it's not like it could happen. Certainly, I could see him, if he takes a step, leapfrogging Mark Friedman on the depth chart. So for him, I think it isn't so much breaking into the opening day lineup when everybody's healthy, because that's probably not a realistic goal, but it's jockeying to be the next man up when injuries inevitably strike so that he can perhaps be a midseason call-up and play games.
Yeah, that's the way I keep thinking about it. Is injuries are going to happen, and I mean the Canucks have gotten relatively lucky, I think, when it comes to injuries, especially on the blue line in recent years. But that's another question I have when we look at this updated lineup for the Canucks: is what happens if there's an injury? Not even just an injury to Quinn Hughes. What happens if there's an injury to Carson Soucy, which there has been in the past? I'll tell you the answer, Harm. Last year, when there was an injury to Carson Soucy, they traded for Nikita Zadorov. Like, people need to remember that's why this team even got Nikita Zadorov in the first place. If Carson Soucy stays healthy, Nikita Zadorov maybe doesn't ever become a Canuck. And of course, they were interested in him before that, but that was the catalyst that ultimately led to them trading for Nikita Zadorov.
Also, McWard has good skating for his size. He's above average in terms of the frame that he has, so that's not a worry for the coaching staff. Obviously, he's not gonna quite bring the same level of muscle as like a 6'7" Desharnais or even an O'Juleson, but he's sturdy. He's going to be able to win battles. Plus, he's got better feet than a Desharnais. If let's say a guy like him gets into injury trouble, and you're looking at, okay, we need some puck moving skill next to Forbort. I think McWard has room to improve in terms of the quickness with which he reads NHL plays, retrieves pucks in the defensive zone, and makes decisions. But his feet, at least, are decent. And as we discuss the bottom four in defense, and I know we've talked about the puck moving element quite a bit, is I've been thinking about how even like Ian Cole leaving, I love Forbort at half the cost as a value acquisition. But one thing Cole quietly did prior to the Edmonton series, where he was banged up and obviously had a nightmare series, was quietly he was really poised under pressure making decisions. Right, he was slow in terms of his feet, but he could face a forechecker and make the right like 5 to 10 foot pass to help the Canucks break out. I think that was an underrated part of his skill set that when he was at his best, he executed pretty well. So even when we're talking about puck moving element, it's not just what you do with your feet. It's that poise and that decision making that I wonder if they're going to miss a little bit of that with Ian Cole, even though I think the Forbort signing was absolutely the right thing to do, because a lot of people in Boston, the number one complaint they have about him, right? They love the penalty killing and how heavy he is. One thing they bring up with Forbort quite consistently is he turns the puck over a lot. So that's one thing you're going to have to be mindful of. And even with Zadorov, we talk about his size and his physicality and his defensive play a lot, but he could wheel and lead breakouts as well. So I think we're both in agreement that that's an element that the Canucks are going to need to likely address at some point before the playoffs next year.
Yeah. Breaking news. Grady, feel free to do the breaking news voice if you want to do it. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to. But I'm liking Grady's breaking news voice lately. Is that a no? That's a no. That's okay. Not today. Not today. Okay, breaking news. Frank Saravelli tweeted this trade out. Robbie Fabry, conditional 2025 fourth round pick to the Red Wings, or excuse me, to the Ducks, and then to the Red Wings, goaltender Gage Alexander. The condition: Ducks receive earlier of Detroit or Boston's 2025 fourth. And as Grady pointed out in our chat here, after the Wings signed Tarasenko, this one comes down.
Yeah, it's interesting. Do we know the terms of the Tarasenko deal?
I don't think we do. Grady, do we know those? Gets a little term. Oh yeah,
Ooh,
okay. 2-year contract. Yeah, 2-year contract. AAV of $4.75 million.
It's not bad, and Tarasenko can still give you 50 points, but I don't know about the fit, just in the sense that the Red Wings team defense was a problem last year, right? They gave up too much defensively, and I wonder if Tarasenko is just a little bit too one-dimensional for the Red Wings, right? Tarasenko at that cap hit and that term would have been a great fit in a sort of insulated environment where he's got line mates that are defensively responsible, and can and where he can sort of play a sheltered role, sort of like how he found success with Florida down the stretch and in the playoffs. But I don't know if Detroit can insulate him enough defensively, because Tarasenko can still put up points. He's still got a wicked shot on for a second unit power play, but his defensive metrics have been quietly awful the last couple of years. So I don't know how I feel about that signing if I'm a Red Wings fan.
Red Wings fans seem to really like it in the replies, but I think I have to agree with you. Is not only were your defensive results quietly mid, they were quiet because of where you were playing, in my opinion, at least, of where Tarasenko was with regards to the teams he was playing on. So I think this is a prime opportunity for him to get exposed a little bit more. And I don't know, like, I guess the cap hit's decently low for a guy who's going to put up points, but yeah.
Then again, now that I do think about it a little bit more, they lost Perron, who was really slow, and outside of his ability to control play down low, his defensive metrics were pretty much the same as Tarasenko. So in a way, they've replaced Perron with Tarasenko, and I think Perron got $4 million times 2 years, and I would rather have Tarasenko than Perron at those values. So okay, I can kind of see the logic now that I'm thinking about it a little bit more. Not the perfect fit, but I'm talking my way into thinking it's reasonable.
I still don't know what Detroit's doing though. Like we still don't know what Stevie Y's cooking. It's not good. I don't think.
I don't like their blue line. It's just so many
mid. It's
mid players on overpriced contracts.
Yeah, they're gonna be the most mid team ever. They're gonna be the best 16th place team we've seen.
They're like, and 16th might be 16th would get you in the playoffs.
That's what I'm saying. They're so mid.
I don't think they're gonna. Yeah, like the Atlantic is going to be so difficult for them to make it there. You got Florida, you got Boston. Say what you want about Toronto, but Toronto always gets in. Buffalo is going to be pushing and is sort of a similar tier as Detroit as well. Who am I forgetting? Oh, Tampa. Like Detroit's path to the playoffs is really difficult, and it's disappointing because their run down the stretch and them almost making it was really exciting, and yet on paper they haven't improved. Now they do have some younger prospects to where they're likely banking on internal improvement, which is possible, but I don't know if they're going to gain enough relative to the difference between the top Atlantic contenders and them.
Okay, this is my anyone else, another one for the day. Everybody seemed to notice and take note of the fact that the Canucks schedule release used all black skate colors. Harman, how would you feel about the Canucks going to the all black as their regular uniform? Like they ditched the Orca once and for all, they go all black, and then they have those white road skates.
I sometimes go back and forth on this because I love the black skate, but I wonder if part of the reason I love the black skate is because we don't get it all the time, right?
I think it's overkill. I'll tell you now. I don't want them to make the change.
I don't want them to completely get rid of the blue and green and in the Orca as a whole, to be totally honest.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I'll also say this. Am I the only one that liked the 2019-20 version of the skate jersey better than the current one? It's a little this differences is very very minor.
Collar, right?
Collar. But
I like the collar on that more.
I like the 1920 version of the skate more. I don't know what it is. It's just something about the current ones. I still like it, but not as much as when they initially brought them back.
I like it too. It's the white outline is what Grady said in the chat. And if you think about it, that's exactly what it is. It is the white outline around the lettering and the numbers. I think it makes it pop more. I also like the collar. I like the collar of that one more. This is getting some interaction in the chat. Miss L in the chat said, no, I love the Orca. I don't like the black skate. It's not that I don't like the black skate. It really just comes down to, I think they finally have built this brand enough that I don't think you switch it up. Like, I don't think you go back to the skate that honestly, like if you go show that logo to people in the street, how many people would think it's a skate? Seriously. Like, I know we've had this conversation
Yeah.
before, but not many, right? Like, it's not identifiable, I don't think, as a skate when you show it to a person for the first time. Once you're told it's a skate, you see it, but that's not a strong. I don't think that's a strong brand to go to. So I'm not anti-black skate before Wyatt starts freaking out at me. I don't think I would like a full-time change back to it. This one from Hanja in the chat. I don't think they should ditch the Orca, but I do think they should use the black skate in the playoffs for home games. That I get on board with. I like it. Sterling Portman in the Facebook chat said, "Don't you dare stop the free the skate movement." Look, I'm not trying to poop on the parade. I just don't like it as a full time. I don't think I would like it as a full time switch. 7-6. I want a hybrid black Orca jersey with the orange skate. There's a take. I know why it doesn't like that. The idea of switch or merging the logos. I think I could get on board with that to some extent. I could get on board with it to some extent.
No.
Hanja in the chat again. They used to call it the spaghetti plate. Yeah, exactly. The spaghetti plate. And 7-6 says Orca is the best logo. Man, it's been a quiet chat all day until you bring up the black skate. And now everybody's coming out of the woodwork to give their opinion on this. K-Town Chef. I agree, Quads. I grew up with the black jersey and didn't realize it was a skate until it was gone. That's wild. Like, that's wild. But that's my point, right? And Disto in the Twitter chat said it's more about the color scheme. Man, that's how you get interaction, is bring up the black skate. But it was just something I noticed. The schedule was announced with all black skate colors. So,
By the way, did you see the Dougie Hamilton New Jersey Devils schedule release video?
I watched the start of it. I'm getting confused with the Jeff Carter one. No, I didn't see the Dougie Hamilton one. No.
Oh, you have to see it, man. You have to. Look, Curtis Lazar's in it. It's awesome. It's the most personality that I've seen from NHL players in like a team in a team-based promo content video format in a really long time.
Okay.
It's awesome.
Gonna have to go watch it. This one from Sean S. I'll give this one to you, Harm. Any chance the Canucks trade for Rutger McGroarty to boost their prospect pool? Some say he is NHL ready. They were poking around Alexis Lafreniere a couple years ago. Rutger McGroarty.
I don't think so. I just don't know what you would trade, to be honest, unless you were, let's say, really down on Nils Höglander. But Höglander scored 24 goals for you, so he's a proven commodity. Whereas McGroarty,
and let's be clear, if it was Höglander for McGroarty, the Canucks would have to add to that. Like, I don't think
for sure. It wouldn't be a one for one.
Just to make that clear.
Yeah. So I like him a lot as a prospect. I don't think the Canucks have, put it this way, the assets that it would take to acquire him. I think the Canucks at some point down the road would rather use that to acquire top four defensemen or acquire a win now top six forward, somebody that can make a proven immediate impact, as opposed to a prospect that maybe he's NHL ready now, but maybe it takes him 2 or 3 years to really become an impact top six player.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if there's going to be a fit based on what it's going to cost. I'm curious what it's actually going to cost. Like, what's the cost going to be when a team goes out and acquires him? This is from 7-6. Back to the Orca talk. Also, Anaheim just got an orange jersey. We should stay green and blue. Stay green and blue. That's the take today on Canucks conversation, but we'll wrap it up there. Oh no, we have to do our Bet365 bet of the day. And Harm, I don't know if did you go watch the Washington Nationals versus New York Mets game yesterday?
Of course, man. You know it. I just carved out time in my schedule rather than spending time outside touching grass. First thing I thought was, with my time off, I'm the number one baseball fan on this podcast. You know, I wouldn't miss it for a thing.
Okay, well, I did miss it, but I did see the final line. And DJ Hers, I told everybody yesterday, take him at 6 strikeouts. My only regret was not calling 10, because he finishes his day with 10 strikeouts. He's the first pitcher to have multiple games in his first 10 starts of his career with 10 plus strikeouts. The only other guy to do it, as you know, Harm, Steven Strasburg, another pitcher for the Washington Nationals.
I know that guy.
You do? Do you actually know Strasburg?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, he was so good back in the day.
Yeah, he was like the most hype pitching prospect. I think Paul Skeens is the most hype pitching prospect since Steven Strasburg.
Elite.
Oh, yeah, the fastball on that guy was
I will say, like, I don't know if I could name so you're saying the Nats and who else?
The Mets.
Okay, I don't know if I can name a single player on either team, because I'd be going like, Bryce Harper, but no, he's on the Phillies now. I'd be going Strasburg, but he's retired now. So yeah, I don't know anybody on the Nats. Is Lindor on the Mets?
Yes, he is. Yes, he
Oh,
is.
there we go. There we go. I got
There's
one.
one. Yeah, there you go. There you go. And Pete Alonso, you know Pete Alonso.
Uh, now that you mentioned him, yes, the first baseman, right?
Oh, there you go, dude. And he's the guy that he just does the home run derby every year. He
Yeah.
loves the home run derby so much. I think he's won it 2 or 3 times, Grady. Has Alonso won it 3 times? I don't know. He's won it more than once. I know that for sure. He lives for the home run derby, man. That's all he does. He lives for the home run derby. But yeah, I don't even think I could name a player. Oh, I guess I could name a few players on the Nats. I know DJ Hers, and obviously CJ Abrams as well. Yeah, the one thing I don't miss about off-season episodes is baseball talk. Don't worry, we're not doing baseball talk. We're not bringing back baseball talk.
Dude,
But
I used to love playing MLB The Show. It was probably my second favorite game behind the EA NHL games.
oh yeah, that's my rotation right now. That's all I play is I play MLB The Show and I play NHL. Although I gotta tell you, Faber. So like we have our team at night. We play at 9 o'clock every night. We play Eashel on NHL. I'm center. Faber's my winger. We score a ton, and then 2 of our buddies play defense. If you see us, folks, let us know if you got dusted by us, because I love getting that tweet when people are like, "Yeah, you beat us 5-1," and we're pretty good. We're a pretty solid team. I don't know where I was going with this, but yeah, NHL and MLB are my games. Faber doesn't play MLB with me though. For those wondering, he doesn't play MLB. It's Jacoby. Quads got so happy when Harmon successfully named a few baseball players. I did. You pulled Francisco Lindor, rabbit out the hat. I loved it. It was great. It was great. But
Dude,
we'll
if you quizzed me on 2010s baseball players, you'd be surprised at how many of them I know.
Okay, I think we got a little time. Grady, you want to do this segment? Just name a few 2010s MLB players. We got a little time. And anyone else? We'll get to our Bet365 bet of the day. Actually, let me do the Bet365 bet of the day.
Yeah,
we'll close it out. Yeah, we'll close it out with some 2010s baseball players. Grady, text me some names while I do it. Just text me some names. We'll do like a guess who version of it. We'll tell you like stats, team, that sort of stuff, and we'll do it that way. But let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day, which is brought to you by, you guessed it, Bet365. We're taking a young Pirates pitcher, Jared Jones, to absolutely dice up the St. Louis Cardinals tonight. I'm taking him to get 7+ strikeouts tonight at plus 125. Odds, you can go get that yourself at Bet365. That was our bet of the day, brought to you by Bet365, a proud partner of Canucks Conversation. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code VANBONUS when you sign up for an account. Must be 19+ to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. All right, let's do it. Let's get to some names. Let's get to how do you want to do this, Harm? Like, do you want me to just tell you some stats, teams? Like, how are we going to do this?
That's a good question, because I don't know the best way to do this. Like,
Okay,
I could just
I
name
have
off.
some ideas.
Okay,
I have some
yeah,
ideas.
all right.
Yankees captain, played shortstop.
Derek Jeter.
Derek Jeter is correct. Okay. Yankees third baseman, originally was a shortstop, started his career with the Seattle Mariners, then signed the biggest contract at the time with the Texas Rangers, went to the Yankees and was moved to third base because Derek Jeter was there. Do you need another hint?
Was that Cano?
Nope.
No,
But
second baseman, right?
my next hint, yes, he was. My next hint is going to help you. Was suspended for using PED.
Oh yeah, Alex Rodriguez.
Alex Rodriguez is
okay,
the
of course.
answer.
Right.
Okay, moving away from the New York Yankees, we'll go to the Toronto Blue Jays. This pitcher's nickname was Doc. Unfortunately, recently passed away. Was inducted to the Baseball Hall of Fame. His nickname was Doc. Won a Cy Young.
Roy Halladay.
Roy Halladay is correct. I might have to make this a little bit tougher. Where should we go from here? I'm like trying to think about the. Okay, here we go. Oh, I don't even know if I get this one. Grady gave you a tough one. Okay. First baseman, batting champion, threw with his left hand. We might need another hint for this one. And he played for the Colorado Rockies. I don't know if you'll get this one.
Oh,
quite honestly,
no.
I don't think I would have got this one. It's Todd Helton. I don't think I would have got that one. I'm not going to lie to you. Okay. Do you just want 2010s? You can't do different eras. Hey, like how long ago did you play MLB The Show?
Like the most recent one I probably had was like 14.
All right, chat, feel free to come up with some hints. I'll give you one, Harm. Red Sox first baseman. Well, DH really. He played DH. Nickname Big Poppy.
Ortiz.
David Ortiz is correct. Okay. The knuckleballer from the
R.A.
Boston
Dickey.
Red Sox. Nope. That
Oh,
was a good guess.
okay.
From the Boston Red Sox. Recently passed away. First name was Tim. He was dynamite in those games that you and I are talking about. He was unhittable. Knuckleballer.
I don't remember the exact Tim Wake something.
Yes, that's Tim Wakefield.
Yeah.
Tim Wakefield.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's right. Okay, I'm loving this. This is great. People are getting into it now. Folks, if you don't want to hear this, feel free to back out. But folks, give us some more hints here. I like this. This is fun. I think we should randomly do this. Just randomly start throwing baseball stats at you and see if you can get with them. Okay, this is a tough one, but if you know 2010s baseball players, you will know this. Harmon, the San Francisco Giants were dominant for a number of years in the early 2010s. They had a catcher who was very, very solid. He was their cornerstone. Buster Posey is correct, but we're going to take it a step further.
Okay.
Who was the pitcher nicknamed the Freak for his small stature and unusual windup and delivery, pitching to Buster Posey on most of those games?
Nickname Tim Lincecum.
Tim Lincecum, you know way more than I thought you did. This is fantastic. Like, Grady's texting me. So Grady and I are texting about this right now. And for Buster Posey, he gave way more hints than we had to end up giving. Grady, we got to keep coming up with these. This is phenomenal. This is great. You named Buster Posey. That was solid. Okay, let's go. Who else do we have? Maybe we won't do all of these. Actually, no. Last one. Okay.
Okay.
This player often bat leadoff for the Seattle Mariners. Ichiro. Very good. Okay, last one. Name the Bash brothers from the Oakland A's.
Oh, see, nicknames are where.
Okay.
A's.
We can give you more.
Was Giambi one of them?
No, Giambi was not one of them. But that's a really good guess because they were brothers. Jason Giambi was. They were brothers. Okay, I'll give you a hint. One of these guys. Actually, I'll give you a hint on both. But they're okay. One of these guys quite famously did a ton of steroids. Like he. Okay, no. Here's another hint. For that. Aaron Judge broke his rookie home run record. This player.
I don't know this one.
That's fair. It's Mark McGuire was one of them, and then the other one was Jose Canseco. This is great.
See, that's not 2010s. I'm out of my element here.
That's fair. Yeah, it was a little sooner than 2010.
That's my 2010.
Yeah, I should have known that. Yeah. People are accusing you of reading the chat. People, I assure you, Harmon does not have the chat open while we do this show. I promise you, he's not reading the chat. I promise you, that's not happening. Okay, last one. This is a good one from Kron. Detroit Tiger who played DH when they went to the final. Before that, he was a member of the, at that time, Florida Marlins.
Miguel Cabrera
is correct. And Harmon, you have done exceptionally well in this segment. Folks, we got a lot of summer episodes coming, so maybe we'll bring this segment back because that was a ton of fun. I had a lot of fun doing that, Harm.
That was fun.
That was a ton of fun. That was great. That was a great way to end out this episode. Folks, I don't know if we're going to do a show for tomorrow or Friday. If something happens, we'll probably do a show Friday, but this might be the last you hear from us on Monday. We're going to try to recover from work in the draft and free agency. So we'll close it out there, and we'll see you when we see you. For my co-host, Harmon Dial, and our technical producer, Grady Sass, my name is David Quadrelli. Thank you so much for listening to the episode of the Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.